Hey everyone, welcome to the Woman Rising podcast. This is your host, Emily Gold, creator of the Intuitive Soul Academy and author of the book Into the Light, a poetry collection on healing from trauma and abuse. I'm so honored for my special guest today and friend. We have such a beautiful, fascinating story to share about this whole journey of how we've ended up here on the podcast together. But I have Jacquelyn Tierney. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I don't ever get the last names right with people. Sometimes I'm like, did I say that right? But Jacquelyn and I met 5 years ago at a spiritual workshop in Arizona. It was like a 5-day workshop. And we've just kept in touch over the years through Facebook and social media. So a little bit about her. She is a photographer and teacher who works with women creatives, entrepreneurs and leaders, survivors and thrivers and mothers, to not only children, but to game-changing work in this world. So through her portraiture photography workshops and treks across the globe, Jacquelyn guides women back home to their voices, power, and hearts. And she's doing something pretty amazing soon. She just told me about. She's doing a destination transformation experience to Mount Kilimanjaro this September. So we'll talk more about that in the podcast. But I just wanted to give you a warm welcome and say thanks for being on here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm amazed at just the way this universe kind of works and how it weaves things together and how we have stayed in touch for so many years. And we met through a mutual friend who I went to graduate school with, I guess.
What's her name again?
It was 10 years ago.
Yeah, wait.
Trish.
I know. Trish. Yes. Oh. Yeah. Oh my God, totally forgot. Yeah.
And then I guess I don't remember if we connected before Arizona, but we, connected at the workshop. And then here we are today.
Yeah, I think for some reason I feel like I might have been following your work, or somehow we connected in Arizona and we're studying mediumship together. Which is wild. I feel like we briefly hung out or chatted, and then all these years, and we've just touched through the connection of the internet. So, I think we both have been very much drawn to each other, if it's safe to say, probably within the last year or so. And I feel like we reconnected through a very similar kind of background of abuse and trauma. And I feel like the work you're doing is really just phenomenal. So maybe you can tell us more about kind of what you're doing now and what sparked that work to come to life.
So
no, nothing big, not a big deal.
Let's see. Gosh, I feel like all the work I'm doing right now has been within me. It's just been contained within me for all of these years. Any of the past work I've done, because my journey it's been, I've had a winding road. So my background is in fine art and decorative art. And then for a stretch of time, I was involved in sacred arts and mediumship and kind of energetic healing practices, which I still do some of that now for my longtime clients that I've had. So I do that work privately. But then my path brought me back to creative work. And, actually now I get to combine both the healing and the creative work, because in the self-portraiture workshop that I'm, that's going on next week, it's healing through creativity and, coming back home to yourself through creativity. So it's really it all has come full circle. I just needed to learn one thing at one time, the next thing at, the next time, and then be able to kind of bring it all together.
I love that you're using the connection between healing and creativity. And I feel like that for myself has been a really great tool in being able to express something that I feel like sometimes it's really hard to talk about, which for me, I know has been like healing from years of trauma and violence as a kid. Do you find that also helps you in the same way? Like being able to kind of go into a safe space, or like, what's your process like with it?
Yeah. So when I create for myself, so I have a self-portraiture practice that I started a few years ago. And I remember there was one time in last spring in 2017, after a 3 or 4 day episode of abuse, I set myself up in front of my camera and I just took photographs of myself. And it was a way for me to see myself again.
Wow.
Acknowledge my being, and like, okay, I'm still here. I'm okay. And that self-portraiture practice really, it saved me. It gave me time. It was just another method of healing that allowed me to be present and kind of ground and, flush things out of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it still works that way for me now. I feel like when I'm behind my camera photographing a landscape or something, or if I'm in front of my camera, the rest of the world melts away.
Yeah.
And I have a safe space to breathe and feel, and just work through any emotions that want to come up. I can do that privately.
Yeah. Is that like a practice you do often?
So when I started doing it, I started this self-portraiture practice in 2015, in December of 2015, and I was doing it weekly or bi-weekly, and then it just, let's see, then I was doing it, I don't know, just whenever I kind of felt like it. But now that I've been moving through so much in my life, it has become more frequent again.
Yeah.
And, I've been doing it for my work now, and I'm doing it for myself. So I have to so in some ways I do it whenever I feel in just kind of this pull, like, okay, you need to get grounded again, or you need to bring some creativity back into your life, or you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
Because I have a tendency to just work. And
yeah.
I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You have to fill that cup up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I do the same thing. Like, well, I feel like I have a little bit more of a balance now, but it's, I guess when you're so passionate about like a message, like I feel like for me, I've moved into this place of, I'm super passionate about a message being given to the world. And that is like the use of tools to have space in our lives from pain and loss and sorrow. And I find that that's such a beautiful kind of intimate experience, is to be with yourself with the camera. And it's like sparks something in me of like, oh, I kind of want to do that. Like just sit with myself, and it feels like almost like a very intimate relationship with an intangible object or an inanimate object. But yet there's this really, I mean, your photos that you've taken that I've seen, you shared it on your website, are just so raw. They feel so raw and like so tender at the same time.
I'm so glad you used this word raw, because this
Yeah.
is what this is something I wanted to bring up in our conversation. I'm grateful that we can come on this, we can enter into this space as our raw selves and, you know, not feel like we have to cover up in any way. Like I was thinking, okay, so today I've been moving through a lot of feels.
Yeah.
My, skin might be flushed. I don't have any makeup on. I'm kind of just, my emotions might be showing on my on my face. But that's part of being human and healing and
that's great.
living and kind of for me right now, things in my life are expanding so quickly. It's very scary. But if I don't honor that fear, if I don't just give it space, then I'm not going to be able to kind of move forward. So I'm just glad that we can show up in this kind of raw state, and there's no judgment. And there's no like have tos, shoulds, or pressure to be anything that we're not feeling like we want to really be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I was telling you before the podcast that I've chased this image of perfection, of like, gotta have my shit together because, I'll be loved and approved and accepted if I have everything together. And yeah, exactly. It's kind of ridiculous. And so when I like look at myself, I'm like, oh, look at you trying to be perfect. You already know how that works, Emily. Like, so yeah, when you were saying having more compassion for ourselves, and so I feel like your self-portraiture kind of work requires that. It requires you to be compassionate with yourself. Be like, whoa, look, yeah, this is where I'm at in my body right now.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I don't like it. So I'm so excited. I mean, you told me that you're doing this 7-day challenge. Is it 7-day challenge?
It's a workshop.
Yeah.
It's like a workshop class. It's 7 days, and each day there is a prompt for, we have, each day you'll create like a mini self-portrait, but we're really working towards creating one final self-portrait at the end of 7 days. And the prompts are meant to help guide you in rewriting your story. So if you've been given stories about yourself like you are too much of this or you are not enough of this, it's an opportunity to shed all of those layers that are not your own and rewrite your story. And I will encourage my kind of students or the group to take moments with themselves and just appreciate their bodies, which are miracles. If you think about it, like you start from this little microorganism and you grow into this incredible being that can think and create and, do all these amazing things. So, I've learned to appreciate myself through the self-portraiture process. Wow. Because I can take a step back and see new things about myself that I didn't see just looking in the mirror, or I don't know, it just is like a way to recognize the self and how far one has come.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. It's a really I think a powerful tool to be in a relationship with yourself in a very different way. I feel like for me, when I was writing Into the Light, it was similar. Like I had to go through these feels like you were saying. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is too much for me to put this out in the world, or like my voice is too big. And I feel like every day I tackle that somehow. I'm like, okay, like, just like come out of my, find a new level of safety. Yeah. Like that is something I feel like is part of this process of healing, for me at least, is this using these creative tools, one, to find space and safety in myself, and then two, learn how to like navigate the world so that whatever happens, whoever hurts me per se, I know how to like withstand that storm inside of me. And I find that like with you, after coming out of a very recent relationship, you're really like taking on your own storm. And you know, you are like, you're braving it. Like every day you take it on and you're making art from it and being the megaphone for other women who resonate with that pain of being in an abusive relationship and finding your way again, and almost like literally learning how to walk in life, you know, and express yourself and know your own voice and know that it's okay. And you it's this constant kind of play with yourself in a way, which doesn't always feel like play. But you know, you are like, you're taking on the storm of your life of saying, I left this relationship and I'm starting over, but you did it to save yourself, to save your sanity. What are your thoughts on that? Well, you can describe it more than I can. I wasn't there with you, but like, I just know what I've been watching on, you know, social media and some of the great stuff you're sharing and how you're channeling it into art and transformation.
I was dying inside. It was like a really slow death.
Yeah.
I felt like if I was this one kind of visual, like this visual that I had often in that relationship was of me being a flower, and my ex would just like stomp on the little flower and then he would expect me to grow back. And there was no way I could, you know, I could only grow so much. I had to leave. If I wanted to blossom, if I actually wanted to flower, I had to leave.
Yeah.
And I spent 7 years. There were 7 years of those 10 years. Maybe it was 8 years. I knew I had to leave. And I, you know, I'd get to the point where I'm like, okay, I need this amount of money in my bank account. This is how I'm going to do it. Okay, when can I do it? And then it just never happened. And I would go through this cycle year after year after year. And then finally in 2016, I knew in my heart that 2017 was the year I had to leave. I didn't know the how. This is something I have to remind myself all the time when I get really fearful about the future. Like, you don't have to know the how. Yeah. You just have to know like what you want, or have some clarity around the point that you want to move toward. So I didn't know the how. And then, you know, events just kind of happened and people came into my life and things unfolded in a way where I just, you know, it was the opportunity came to leave and I had to trust it. And it was really fast.
Wow.
And,
was he financially supporting you?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there were a lot of limits around how much I could work. So before I entered that relationship, I always held a job. Yeah. In high school, college, graduate school. I loved working. I love working. I admit it. Like, I love to work. And when I entered that relationship, I was in school, I had some things going for me, and then kind of everything started to wind down at the same time. And I was working at an auction house, and my ex told me, well, you know, you can only work so many days a week. And then it became, you can only work 1 day a week, or you can only work this specific day of the week, and then you're not going to work anymore. And it was like a real slow squeeze and kind of suffocation of my
Was there a reason for it?
He just wanted to control me
I see.
and
So
where I was.
Do at home. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, so, you know, because I wasn't working, I wasn't contributing financially.
Wow.
And he did take care of me financially. And then eventually I was able to work here and there as long as I could be mobile and flexible. So I did a lot of work over the internet.
Yeah.
But you know, it was important to me that I never, no matter how dark things felt, I always held on to like a little piece of my independence.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to give up on my spirit.
Yeah. Wow. I'm curious, did you ever share with anyone when you were with him the nature of your relationship?
Not, you know, there's a lot of details I didn't share, and I still haven't shared.
Yeah.
But people also could, you know, through observation, they could see things,
right.
or they felt things. They knew something was off, or
yeah. Oh, wow. That's wild. And I mean, you trusted yourself enough to pick up and go. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that, you know, so this, I call it was like my breaking point. I just knew, you know, for many years, my mom told me, you will know when it's time to leave. Because I was always I always had one foot out the door, but one foot stuck in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you will know when it's time to leave. You will know. And then I did. It was so fast.
Where did
I just
you
knew
go?
it was. I went to my mom's house first. So it was the afternoon of August 1st. And when I left, I had packed, well, I had been traveling a little bit that month. So I had a suitcase that I had never unpacked. And so it had random things in it. And then I packed a backpack, and I took one of my cats, my passport, you know, some valuables, and I got a taxi and I rented a car, and then I drove away. and he was at our home, but he was drunk and high, and you know, like I think neither of us, it was a really surreal moment. That whole day was surreal. Everything was unfolding so quickly, and we each didn't really know what was going on.
It sounds terrifying.
And it was and it wasn't, because I felt, you know, for a long time before that, I had been building up my voice.
Yeah.
And talking about things more publicly. And so I had a lot of support behind me. It was like the energy had just been building and building and building. And so I felt ready. Yeah. Wow. I don't remember what your original question was, so I'm sorry.
No, we're just kind of chatting about it. I mean, it sounds like you had to set yourself up, like, mentally, and also like have your resources in place for your exit, you know, like having a support system and sort of alerting people of this big move you're getting ready to do. I think that's really healthy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. yeah, and then I think that was so valuable for my healing journey too, because I took a leap into the unknown, and if I hadn't set myself up, I don't know. It was, my community has been such a huge part of my healing and my thriving.
Yeah.
I used to say, so in my social media profiles, I used to write domestic abuse survivor, but now I write DA thriver, because I don't feel like I'm just surviving anymore.
Yeah.
I'm really thriving.
That's great. Wow. Well, yeah, I hope you celebrate, this sense of victory for other women who are in these situations still and are trying to find their way out, or tolerate it because it's what they know. Like my mom, she's been married to my dad for 30 plus years, and literally just had a conversation with her a couple days ago. And she said, well, I tolerate it, and I can't take care of myself, and I don't have any money, and I don't know what the other side of the coin would be like.
I think that's the real reason there. It's not, I don't have money, or I don't know what I would do, or it's like, what is on the other side? We just don't know. And that's so scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And she is also with a mental illness of schizophrenia and medicated. She's made some really great strides, like in her life, like almost killed herself probably like 5 years ago, I think it was. And she has a job now, and she didn't have a job before. And she was at home all the time, like just spinning circles in her mind. And she got a promotion, and her therapist said they don't need to see her again until 3 months from now. So she's made some progress, and she acknowledges her life. Like, she's very conscious and aware of it. So she seems to be like taking these slow kind of steps into a functional life for herself. And she sees my father as an abusive man and a sick man. And I feel like, I guess talking about this, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like her situation and another women who are still trying to find that courage to see what's on the other side, like see what's on the outside of this situation that I've known for so long. It's almost like a language, this language that we like live in and think it's, not okay, but it's like just there. There are ups to it, and there's a lot of downs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think helped you to, like, obviously you knew that you needed to leave, but there's something in you that really like took that leap of faith, or what, in a way, like, I guess the reason why I ask is because people who are listening and women out there who might be in these situations or know women in these situations, it's like, what is that message you'd want to give them if they're in that place of like, I'm afraid to see what's on the other side? And is there one, or are there steps? What do you?
I don't think there's, because, okay, so I'm thinking about my own journey, and how many years I spent in my relationship knowing I had to leave, but I stayed in it.
Yeah.
And there's so many reasons why I stayed in it. Like the reasons would change over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I had to just work through a lot. So I'm, if for women who are in abusive relationships, if you feel, you have to trust your intuition. You just trust your intuition, because I felt safe enough where I could stay and work out what I needed to work out in my own self, until I was fully ready.
Yeah.
There were certain things that I was willing to endure so that I could give myself the time and financial resources to work out other things. And then, I feel like from the women that I've spoken with and just stories I've heard, it feels like you'll know when it's the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can build yourself a support community, even if it's one person.
Yeah.
Just, it might be hard to start using your voice, but even if you can connect with, let one person know what's going on or what you're feeling or what you want to do, because you don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to, leaving doesn't have to be something that you do on your own.
Yeah. I think that's solid tools. Yeah. I mean, I would, well, I don't really know what to say after that. I'm like, well, yeah, gosh, it's a journey. So what are some of your favorite things that you like to do to take care of yourself? What do you do to have fun with yourself these days? I had somebody else's question on the podcast, and she's had such a funny answer. She was like, I got this cheap pizza and watched Kiki's delivery service, and it was the best thing for me to do. And what are some of your cheesy fun things that you enjoy, or do you have them?
This morning I was doing something for fun. It's really working with my camera, getting outside, and I love driving. So I'll just get in the car and drive around with my camera, or ride my bike with my camera. And this morning I walked around the house and I don't know. So I'm staying at my uncle's house, and he has a farm. So I collected some of the eggs from the chickens, and I took some of my coffee beans from this morning, and someone in the house had left a lemon in a teacup for the morning. So I took the lemon out, and I just made a little still life.
That's cool.
And photographed it, and that was my playtime for the day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, just being a kid, I love making little things, or drawing, doodling, or just silly kid stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. This woman, I was at a networking event recently, she said sometimes when she's stressed out, she has Play-Doh. And she'll I thought it was so great. I was like, Play-Doh? Just get yourself some Play-Doh. And she plays with her Play-Doh at her desk for 10 minutes to just get out of her stuff, or, get out of work's mind, or all of these things. And she loves it. It's a really fun, easy way to just kind of be silly. I think I might get myself some Legos.
I was going to say, what do you do?
I like Legos, and I realized I don't have any Legos. But I loved Legos when I was a kid. Me and my cousin, we used to do this funny thing. Oh my God. We would take our Legos and we'd build these cities with the macaroni and cheese boxes. This little village with the macaroni boxes, and then we'd put our Legos together and be this little tribes, and put our cars in there. Yeah.
Do you find that any of the activities you were a part of as a child that you really enjoyed have come back into your life as an adult, and the work that you do?
Yeah. Well, I always loved writing as a kid. I always loved art, drawing, painting, coloring, things like that. So now my work with my book I recently wrote, that was a huge kind of a risk for me. So I haven't really like put my creative work out in the world in a while. And most of my work is teaching like meditation and mediumship or exercises to develop this gift, this ability. So now I like to write poetry. It's soothing and it's soft, and it's stuff actually tools I share with my students, and write a poem about it, like personify anger or personify your coffee cup. Like just I don't know, I just like it. And I'll write little stories about a breakthrough I had. Like the other night I was like sitting on my edge of my bed with my laptop in my lap, and I was like, oh God, I just want to quit today. Like, what happened if I just quit? Like my unworthiness beliefs were coming up a lot, and it was around money. And I had to have a really serious conversation with it. And so I wrote this great piece afterwards about this whole storyline of being against my bed, just wanting to give up, and then realizing that, coming back to that calling of just wanting to help people, help people, help people. That's all I care about, really. So I do feel like my practices of writing and creativity and channeling these otherwise unspoken things that we never talk about in society, really, or we're starting to now give air to, it gives me peace. It also gives me like joy to like, oh wow, look what I wrote from this moment that was really emotional. Yeah, and cooking. I've been really getting into the cooking for my boyfriend. I'm like, babe, look what I made you, steak. But yeah, cooking is fun. I'm enjoying that. It's bringing me a lot of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, making food for people and then seeing the look on their face when they eat it is so cool.
Serving, this word, like service or serving,
yes,
it's something I return to whenever I have a lot of fear or anxiety.
Yeah, totally.
Like, okay, you know what, I'm fearful about not bringing in enough money or whatever. So that I just think, all right, get out of that space. I ask myself the question, how can I be of service? Mm-hmm. And then I'll write something for my list, or or I think about, I don't know, what I needed on my healing journey that wasn't available, and then I'll create it, and that's kind of like my act of service. And that, so that brings me back to this center, or helps me ground. It's like, because I think about why am I here in the world?
Yeah.
And, like, making money is great, but I feel like my true purpose is to be of service. It's to love.
Yeah.
And to give back.
Yeah.
And to connect with others. Because I feel like that's what I'm going to take with me when I cross over. It's all that connection and all that, that's what really matters to me.
Yeah. I feel I resonate with that a lot. I was telling my roommate, I was like, I think this is like the first time that I'm financially struggling more than like average per se, or ever in my life, And I was like, what is going on? And I had all these like, you should do this and do that. Like, the world of entrepreneurship is so saturated with all these things to do to make more money and this and that. And so, but I know what makes me feel good, you know, and sometimes it's charging a 111 for a session because I like that number. But somebody else in my world may charge different price. And so there's the comparison game and stuff. And I know when I was 12 years old, I knew that I asked the question, why is this happening to me? Like, why am I with an abusive family? And why is this happening to me? And the universe gave me this very profound answer that stayed with me since that moment. I was on my balcony looking at the stars, having this conversation as a 12-year-old. And I got this answer. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. And
I just got chills.
Right? It's just, I talk about, I'm like, wow, I believe you were intuitive as a kid. But yeah, it was happening for me because at some point I would take it out in the world and give it away to millions of women, hopefully. And so whenever I get caught up in those stories, you know, not making enough money or anything, I come back to what's important. What's at my core value? And that's serve. Serve, and the rest will figure itself out. You know, it might be terrifying. You might be on the edge of your seat for a second, like, buckle up.
So what do you do when fear wants to have a conversation with you, or like, you know, how do you move through the fear that comes up? So I'm thinking about, okay, you know, you wrote this book of poetry and now it's time to put it out and it's time to market it. And how do you move through the fear that shows up?
You know, that book, I dedicated it to my younger self. And I said, you're never alone and I will always love you. So every second I have this doubt in my head of like, wow, what if my writing's not really that good? Like, I'm not Rupi Kaur or some big literature poet who went to school for writing. But I know the message behind it. I know the value that it has had on me, and it's still hard sometimes to read it. I'm like, yeah, that's painful. But you know, I had a book signing a couple of months ago here in LA for the book, and I was terrified out of my mind. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be reading my poetry. What if it sucks? Like, what if it's too raw? It's too raw. Yeah, you know, it's too much. Like, these people are gonna walk out depressed, and it was packed. There was no room, and I had like women were crying in the audience, and so that was a moment for me. That was a really like transformational moment of like, just trust your message, and the rest of it will go to exactly who needs it. It's like that book she has her own life, and I have to like let go of the attachment of my baby. Like, I have to trust that she will do the work that she wants to do in the world, which is me, extension of me. But the fear constantly is there. Like, you wanted an Oprah? Well, maybe you should write another book right now, and just that book will figure itself out. And I'm still working on another book, but I'm still going to try to get my book to Oprah. So like, it's kind of just like listening to the fear and doing it anyway, you know, having a relationship with it. So I talk to my little self. I ask her what she needs. And I tell other people, like, you know what, I'm freaking out about this right now. Or so reaching out to other people and telling them, like my support system here, doing yoga, journaling about it, and having a conversation with the scared girl inside of me who's still learning her voice in the world and fearing that she'll be too much or that the poetry is too raw. I'll just go on Amazon and read the reviews, like remember all the women that have reached out to you. And so that's part of it. It's kind of like reinforcing the new and replacing those old thoughts with new ones. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to take with, in all of that, I'm taking with me trust in the message.
Yeah, trust in the message. Trust in the message. Yeah. And the message will get you there.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it is just like extra. Mm-hmm. And I think with a lot of people we look at in history, they trusted their message. Like transformational leaders and spiritual teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking if let's say we're creating something or working on something and we feel like we are like moving too far away from, I don't know,
getting lost.
Yeah, if we're getting lost, you come back to the message.
Yeah, that's the anchor point.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I'm feeling it, but I can't articulate it. Yeah, because I think as an entrepreneur, it's easy to get lost in all the noise of what we should be doing or how to make something a success, how all this how-to stuff. And then it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I just need to get back to why I made this thing in the first place. And kind of connect with how we feel is the best way to deliver it, or
and how people respond to what you are delivering. And some people have a message and they deliver it podcast. Mm-hmm. Some people have a message and they deliver it through writing or art. And so if that's the medium that was working for you and you're getting like a lot of responsive feedback, then trust that channel too. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like I can have a tendency to be like, well, maybe I should try that, or like this way. And it's just because I have this, I have this big message I want to get out of the world. Like, if I could press the button and there was a microphone in all parts of the world, like I would be so excited to do that, And so I feel like there's this opportunity to trust, like also your form of expression.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's where I feel like we second guess ourselves. It's like, is this form of expression okay? Or is it enough?
Mm-hmm. Is it enough? That was something I feel like I've worked through this. Is the way that I'm connecting with people the right way or enough? Because I like to connect with people in really intimate spaces, and I just like being accessible. And I think, like, to me, having a big platform and audience feels so overwhelming. And that's just, I just don't feel like I could do my best work or like be able to deliver my work in a way that really is meaningful or supports or serves, or, if it's in volume. Like I like to, I like to do one-on-one stuff.
Yeah.
I like to be in small groups, and that's okay.
100%. I agree. I think that's also part of the calling, is knowing your platform, like knowing what stage you want, because that's your stage at the end of the day. Does it have to be a stage of thousands or millions of people? No, not necessarily. Like, it's your stage, you create, it's your house. So that's your stage, the intimate gatherings, the small dinner parties, like, but then eventually the word gets out, like, oh, do you know what so-and-so is doing? I kind of want some of that. And so then you might be called to, like, do that still, but also, like, share your message, which you do through your blog. You do it in other ways where you can reach people in a bigger, platform per se. It's like a variety of serving. I was also, like, at one point, like, terrified to be in social media, because I was, like, shy and stuff. And I realized at some point, I was like, I gotta get over this. Like, this is keeping me small. Literally, like, keeping me small. And I don't like that feeling. And so I like to challenge myself to, like, change the bar in some way. So it just kind of, like, is me taking a risk. Because I feel like my natural, like, tendency is to want to, like hide. And I feel like that's definitely, like, my trauma, like, I carry with me, of, like, even the way that I sit in my shoulders and hiding my breasts. And so my challenge personally has been to go out and be visible and stop hiding, because that's where I know that I shine. It doesn't make me feel good to hide.
I think also for anyone who's listening and feels like they want to grow their visibility, but they, it's like, just trust that what avenue you want to take first.
Yeah.
And you can do it on your own timeline.
Yeah.
You don't have to, if someone says, there's no have to's. You don't have to grow yourself by being visible on YouTube and making videos every day. You can start small and do posts on Instagram,
or do paintings and do your own thing.
Yeah, just do your own. Yeah, do your own thing, and don't. And I think we all know intuitively kind of what our limits are and what we're going to feel comfortable with, and what is a healthy and safe challenge, or I don't want to say safe, but, like, what's a healthy expansion for us and challenge, and then what's really painful and is going to do us harm.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like in my yoga practice I learned that it's like, I can take a risk in this pose.
Right.
But I know if somebody picks up my heels in, like, Shavasana and they touch the skin of my heels, I don't like that. It makes it painful. It hurts. So I feel like there's a difference with, like, taking a risk and knowing your limits and in your way of living. Yeah. Yeah. So, final question. What is one tool you do daily to connect to your intuition?
So I have a little visualization practice. And when I say little, I mean it takes a short amount of time. It's not insignificant. So I have a checklist that I keep on my bathroom mirror. And it asks, were you of service today? Did you work out today? Because working out and movement is a way I connect with my intuition.
Nice.
there's just a few things. And one of those questions is, did you visualize your future today? So I really just take 30 seconds to be still. I'll stand in front of my mirror, close my eyes, check in with my body, and then I think about what I want to do next week or in a couple months or what I want to do this year. And I just really feel into that vibration and just see myself doing it. And sometimes I have to work out, like sometimes fear does come in even when I'm trying to connect with the intuition.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't do this, or like, what are you thinking about? Why are you thinking about this? Or, it's just, that's too far off. You need to think smaller or think closer in your future. So I'm like, I'm not always in the flow, but it's just like working some stuff out. It's like working a muscle.
Yeah.
And, and I'll do that in the morning or at night. And also another way I connect with my intuition is, again, through movement, so exercise, but being in the car. Like, I love just driving around. When I was driving out west here for 3 days by myself, I had so many insights and downloads, and like things would just click because I let myself be present in my body and in the moment. And
it's so beautiful.
Connecting with breathing, like breathing helps a lot. Listening. I find if I get still and then listen to my breathing, and then all of a sudden it opens up the other channels. Clairvoyance, clairaudience. Yeah.
Well, if you, we'll post those questions to ask yourself is, did you serve today? Did you move today? And did you connect with your future vision? Is that what you said?
Yeah. There's some business things in that checklist too for the entrepreneurs or the creatives.
Nice. Well, why don't you tell everybody how we can find you, and then any tools that you have, like maybe go to your website and stuff like that. But what you're working on, so you have the Mount Kilimanjaro retreat, the 7-day experience, and then you take it away. Take it away.
All right. So my work and any kind of workshop or experience, this can all be found at my website, which is www.jacquelyntierney.com. I post a lot on Instagram and Instagram stories, and that's my handle is just my name, Jacquelyn Tierney. And I've got the self-portraiture class coming up next week that begins on March 24th. Our welcome email goes out, and class begins on the 25th. And then the trek up Mount Kilimanjaro is September 22nd. So all that information can be found on the homepage of my website.
Yay! Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And thanks everybody for being a part of this amazing podcast of the Woman Rising podcast. I'm Emily Gold, and you can go to my website, emilystroya.com, if you want to learn more about me. Every week I feature different amazing women who have these beautiful stories, and also the way that they express themselves in the world, and how they're making an impact. So it's truly an honor to have you, and
Thanks,
I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon.
Okay. Thanks.